Good evening. Welcome to the Toms River Mayoral debate. My name is Karen Wall. I'm the editor of the Toms River Patch. We will have 2 minutes for each candidate to have an opening statement and 2 minutes at the end for each candidate to have a closing statement. We will have questions that we've prepared in advance, and we'll also be taking questions from you on Facebook Live. Welcome, and we'll get started with Mo Hill. Give us your your opening statement, please.
Thank you. My name is Mo Hill. I'm a lifelong resident of Ocean County. I graduated from Rutgers University in 1965, and I went to 1969 rather, and I went to dental school at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. I graduated in December 1972. While in dental school, I joined the Navy in the Ensign 1925I program. After graduation, I went on active duty in February of 1973, and I came off active duty in 1975. I stayed in the reserves for 35 years. I retired February 1st, 2005 as a Rear Admiral. I was the Deputy Director of the United States Navy Dental Corps. I have had a practice in Brick for 40 years. I retired in 2017. I've been on the council for 2 terms as a Ward 3 councilman, 2 terms as an at-large councilman. I'm also on the Board of Trustees of Community Medical Center. I'm a member of the Ocean County Health Department, and I'm a commissioner in the South Jersey Transportation Authority. I'm also a parishioner at St. Luke's, where I serve as a Eucharistic minister. I've been married 46 years. I have 3 married daughters. I have 6 grandchildren. 2 of my daughters live in Toms River. 4 of my grandchildren live in Toms River. So I'm invested in this community. My middle daughter, Megan, is a teacher at Westover Elementary. She's a kindergarten teacher. And 3 of my 4 grandchildren are currently in school, and the youngest one will start next year. So I'll have 4 grandchildren in school. So the town, with the control of the schools and the funding are critical. I think we need to make sure that it's adequately funded for our children. That's our future. And I think the state cuts that we've had now are draconian and cut into not only classroom size, but also in extracurricular activities and our athletic events. And I'm concerned about the effects on extracurricular activities and also on sports. If you cut down on the number of coaches you have, you can have some severe problems on the field. So I'm in this race because I feel I have the experience, the knowledge, and the leadership skills to carry this town forward in a positive direction. Thank you.
Mr. Petro.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you to all the viewers and the residents of Toms River who are tuning in tonight to make an informed decision on November 5th. My name is Jonathan Petro, and I'm running for mayor, frankly, because I'm angry. I'm angry with the way our town has been handled over the last 15 years, and I believe we need change. I was born and raised in Toms River. I was born in about 40 years ago, a little more than that. I grew up through the Toms River school system. I went to Cedar Grove Elementary School, Intermediate East, and High School East. I played Little League in Toms River, and I coached the Dover Township swim team. I went off to college, but I came back to Toms River after law school, where I went at Rutgers. I came back to start a family law practice in my hometown. During those 15 years, Mr. Hill was on the council. And frankly, I believe that I dedicated my life to service in a different way than he did. I got involved in community service through the Ocean County YMCA, the Greater Toms River Chamber of Commerce, and the Ocean County Library Foundation, and served as chair of all 3 organizations. As I said, I came back to Toms River 15 years ago and I bought a house on the street where my parents raised me and my sister. And I believe in the success of this town, but I believe we need some change. In the 15 years I've been back, property taxes have skyrocketed in Toms River. There's rampant overdevelopment in the North Dover area and other areas of our town. Frankly, I look around and I see open storefronts, I see businesses going out of business, and I also see a lack of interest from various leaders of our town. I believe Toms River is at a crossroads. We can either continue on the straight path where we've gone for the past 15 years, or we can make a change. I'm here to make sure Toms River is on the right track, and I'm happy to have running with me 3 dedicated, dynamic running mates, Karen Sage, Drew Boyle, and Michelle Williams for council. All three are dedicated to the success of Toms River. If given the chance, we will not sit idly by and watch Toms River continue down this path. We believe that Toms River deserves better, and I'm dedicated to make that happen.
All right, thank you. Obviously, overdevelopment has been the biggest topic that everybody has talked about for the last several months. Mr. Hill, what are some of the ways you're going to address controlling these issues going forward?
Well, we've already, since I've been on the council, we've preserved over 400 acres of open space. We've partnered with the county recently on another 50 acres, and the county is also looking at another 30 acres in Toms River where they're going to be preserving open space. Additionally, I was on the Land Use Committee and we did a revision of our master plan, and we've changed the zoning on Route 9 corridor so that it's highway, business, and light industry. There's no more residential development allowed on Route 9. As you know, we don't control the highways. That's a state road. And we're, with our master plan change, we feel that'll eliminate any excess housing in Toms River. We've also purchased, the acreage that we've been purchased has been concentrated in the northern area. On Riverwood, we purchased the Gutman Farm, the Boynton property, and the Huppert property. We also preserved the Coxcrow Horse Farm from development. And also recently the county purchased the Fleischer Farm, which is on New Hampshire Avenue. So I think those going forward, that will preserve that area. We have ordinances in place that will prevent any further development. Most of the development in Toms River in the northern section is a result of the affordable housing. Rounds 1 and 2 had 1,735 units, and round 3, the state came, they wanted at least 2,400. We went to the state, and the court master mandated 1,285 units. So altogether, it's 320 units of housing that we have no control over. That was mandated by the state. It was mandated by the state court system, which is controlled by the Democratic Party, and Trenton, which is also controlled by the Democratic Party. Locally, we had there was nothing that we could do to put off that dedicated, mandated housing requirement.
Okay. Mr. Petro?
You're actually going to hear a common theme coming out of my opponent with regard to blaming Trenton and blaming Democrats for all the things that have had to happen in our town. I want to remind people that Mr. Hill was on council for 15 years while we had a Republican governor in office, Chris Christie. We also have 5 Republican freeholders in town. We've been represented by Republican assembly people and state senators for many, many years. So to throw your hands up in the air and say it's the state's fault, is really disingenuous. I look to Bricktown, who had the same mandates that Toms River had. Brick fought the housing, and they had to build 0 units. This is a concern for me, and frankly, it should be a concern for everyone else in Toms River. With regard to open space, I commend the councilman for his efforts to preserving open space, but frankly, what's been preserved is significantly lower than what has been sold in the 15 years that he's been on council. I agree, we need to preserve open space, and one of the first actions we will take in office is to rezone areas of North Dover to create rural zones. We will also look to minimize any further overdevelopment that has not been approved by changing both our zoning board and planning board in the first year in office.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
First of all, my opponent has misspoken as far as the Brick Township situation. They still have 1,025 unmet needs of affordable housing. They're not done away with. They're still there. It's just that when land is identified, they will have to meet that need of 1,025 units. So they didn't escape and get away without having to provide that 1,100 units of affordable housing. It's been put off as an unmet need, which means it's sitting in the queue. The minute a space is identified, they will have to build that. Now, I would suggest that the site they had for the VA would be more appropriate for housing than it is for the VA. if Brick has spots for the VA, then they have enough to provide the affordable housing. We have met our affordable housing need through 2025. Also, I'd point out to my opponent that you're not going to be able to clean slate both the planning board and the zoning board. Those positions roll out at different times. The mayor appoints the planning board, the council appoints the zoning board. And those are the two boards that pass on approving projects. The planning board usually does site plans on larger parcels. They do waivers. The zoning board is more with variances. In other words, if you need a lot size variance or use variance, you go before the zoning board. My opponent should know that. His firm is one of the largest land use firms in Toms River. They're the largest firm in Ocean County. They're one of the top 3 land use firms in Ocean County and Toms River. So when he talks about overdevelopment, his firm is responsible for 300 units that are currently in our plan for affordable housing. That's almost 10%. And also, I would point out that the area that we live in North Dover is already zoned rural residential at R400. That's an acre per lot. The others are zoned at R200, which is a half an acre. So I don't think you're going to be able to change much in the zoning because it's already zoned maximally at an acre a parcel.
Mr. Petro, we'll start with you. This is from a reader who sent this in. Many candidates have run a similar platform, stop overdevelopment and rezoning land, and yet none have managed to do so. What can you tell voters who are skeptical and on the fence about how you can accomplish that?
Well, as I said, one of the first things we can do is any development that's already in the queue, as my opponent will mention, unfortunately we cannot undo. But we can make changes to our zoning laws. We can assign new people to both the zoning board and planning board. And I agree, we cannot fully clean slate both of those boards, but we can make changes from day one. I want to be clear on that. As far as my firm and being a development firm, I practice family law, and many people who are out there watching, I'm sure, are either clients of mine or former adversaries of mine. You can't blame my firm for everything that you've done, and you've created the rules. My firm has played by those rules.
Let's talk a little bit about the open space, since that's come up. Voters turned down the open space tax, but how much money has the town taken in from open space already, and how much has been paid out? And that's a reader question.
Most of the money that's been taken in from the open space tax, as you know, we bonded for land. We bonded for a lot of land on Hooper Avenue and Fisher Boulevard. That was a combination of both county and local. So most of the money went for bonds. In other words, if you brought in, let's say, 10 million in open space, we didn't pay out 10 million for the land. What we did is we bonded so that we could use more money to buy more open space. And we bought a number of parcels. The girls' softball field, or the Veterans Park, was a purchase of a farm on the corner of Todd Road and Old Freehold Road. There's 24 acres there that we preserved. Most of the money that was raised in the open space is going to pay these bonds off for the lands we've already purchased. We went forward with a non-binding referendum 2 years ago. It passed by 80%. When we asked for a $0.015 increase in the tax, it failed 57 to 43. So it's difficult. What we're doing now, we found we're able to partner with the county. We're the county seat. They're buying land throughout the county. What we've done now is we've partnered with them. When we identify a property, we forward that to the Ocean County Planning Board for their consideration. And we've asked that we be given consideration because we're the county seat. They don't pay any taxes on the buildings they have in town. And since we're a large community, our parcels are smaller. And they just recently purchased several thousand acres in Forked River in the Pine Barrens. We don't have that much open space. The largest place that we have is the SEBA site, and that's controlled by BASF. So we don't control that site. It's privately owned. So what we're looking for is to identify smaller parcels, 10 to 15 acres, whatever we can find, and have the county work with us to purchase those spots. But until we can increase our open space tax by a penny to a penny and a half, and until we pay the bonds off for the lands we've already paid, we're not going to have money in that till to buy much more land. So we've got to partner with the county.
Mr. Petro, how would you accomplish purchasing more open space, since that was one of your criticisms?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is identify the concept that, unfortunately, we can't buy all open space that's available in Toms River. I've heard that from some people as I walk around town saying, why can't we just buy the rest of it and then say, we're done with building, no more building at all? That's not realistic. The reality is we can work both with our county freeholders, and I agree with using both county money and township money to purchase open space. I believe that the open space tax should have been approved. It was not, unfortunately. We need to look to see what money is available and identify those areas where we can purchase open space and then parcel it out specifically throughout the town, so we have different open space lots that are not just in North Dover, but not just in East Dover, but spread throughout. So the people in each district or each area of our town can enjoy that.
One of the, we keep mentioning farms in the discussions about open space. What considerations are being given to encourage people to farm land in the township? Mr. Hill.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the county has a program called farmland preservation, and we use that with the Fleischer Farm. Now what that does is it purchases the development rights for that property. In the case of Kim Fleischer's farm, it was 10 acres. That could have been developed in the R400 zone with 10 houses. So what the county does is they come in, they buy the development rights. That land has to stay in perpetuity as farmland. It cannot be developed. We're looking into the possibility of farming the back of that land, and partnering with Fulfill. They're looking to sign a contract with Kim before she closes on the land. If they sign a long 15-year lease, they'll be able to farm that property, and they'll take the vegetables from that and use it for their food bank. Silverton Farms is a perfect example of farmland preservation. If you go down on Silverton Road, Tom Nivison is a farmer. He's one of the people that said they'll help farm that Kim Fleischer's property in the back. He has a big sign that says farmland preservation. He still farms that property as a farmer, and he sold the development rights, so he got the economic benefit of the development rights, and now he and his family can farm that land and sell those vegetables. So if you can partner with the county on farmland preservation, it's a perfect opportunity because it preserves the land from overdevelopment, and you still have the benefit of using the land to farm.
Mr. Petro, how would you encourage more farming in the township?
Frankly, I believe we need to look to see what we have now and make sure it's preserved. I believe that working with charities like Fulfill is a benefit for our town. I think we need to do that in a lot of other areas too, and not just farming. I think our town council and our town hall needs to work together with our local nonprofits in order to benefit both the people of our town and then also the people that they serve through their missions. As far as farmland is concerned, obviously we need to make sure that the farmers understand what is available to them and work with them in order to make sure they're getting a benefit, but also that we have the money to put towards these properties.
I'd like to highlight, John talked about the town working more with charities. I will say that in a bipartisan effort last year, we passed the model for what would be a Code Blue program. We worked with the charity agencies for homeless. During the really cold months, we had up to 30 people. We partnered. We used our rec center on Riverwood, which was open. We paid for the electricity, the heat. We were able to get 30 cots in there. We had as many as 30 to 35 people out of the cold. Some of the really cold nights last year, there were people that were saved from possibly passing away due to hypothermia. It's a model program. We also worked that, believe it or not, the state had crazy regulation where if it was 35 or 32 and sunny, you couldn't call a Code Blue. It had to be 28 and raining. It was 32 is 32. So we finally got to the point where we have legislation in the state where 32 is code blue, whether it's sunny, whether it's raining, but there was a discrepancy in the temperature depending upon precipitation, which never made sense to me. Freezing is freezing. So we are partnering with our local agencies, and that's a prime example of it, and it was a bipartisan move on both parts. It passed 7-0. We had 2 Democratic council people and 5 Republicans. So we are working with our charity groups.
And if I could just jump in, I believe that the Democratic members of council pushed that issue. It was a bipartisan effort, along with Senator Singer working with our Democratic council people.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any difference who gets the credit. It's just you get the job done.
Okay.
And I gave credit to the 2 Democratic council for bringing that forward, but it was a bipartisan effort, and it's a home run.
Okay. We have a question from Facebook, which is going to go back to the overdevelopment issue. Jack Sudia asks if Toms River is under any requirement to provide more affordable housing. Can you explain?
Can we start off with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Round 3 goes through 2025. Currently, those 3,020 units take us through 2025. So there'll be no more requirement for any affordable housing. Whatever land you see that's cleared now meets our requirement through 2025. So it's either been developed already, it's under construction, or it's already been approved. So there won't be any more development with 130, 140 units of housing. That's done. So we're done till 2025. My attitude going forward is Toms River has ponied up 3,000 units of affordable housing. Until the state steps up and takes care of the transportation infrastructure, mainly Route 9. I live off of Route 9. Route 9 is horrible. It's a 2-lane road, actually 1 in each direction. It's fallen apart. All they want to do is put turning lanes in, which are called suicide lanes. It needs to be developed with 4 lanes. There's been a plan since 1980 for a 4-lane divided highway from the Howell border to the Garden State Parkway. The state has to step up and take care of the transportation needs of the people in this town and this county. We have no rail transportation. We have one means of public transportation, which is our bus terminal downtown. You do have a bus that goes up Route 9, but if you're living on any other road, you have a tough time finding public transportation. So until the state steps up and ponies up, takes care of the infrastructure, we're done. We're done. 2025, I expect 0.
Okay. Mr. Petro.
Well, I think one thing that my opponent and I can agree upon is time flies. So yes, we may not have to build any additional housing between now and 2025, but we should be planning now for 2026 and beyond. We need to look at our infrastructure, look at our mass transit, of course, and work with our DOT in order to get the right people in the right places to make sure that we are providing for Toms River well beyond the next 5 years. Unfortunately, we are in a situation right now where the only mass transit we have in Toms River is the Toms River bus station, and of course the New Jersey Transit through the station. Looking at rail would be very helpful. I think it's something we can work with the state to get that done. I think it's important to keep in mind that while we look at Trenton and we say, oh, they don't care about Toms River, we are the 8th biggest municipality in this state. If the mayor of Toms River can't get on the phone and get the governor to answer or get the director of the DOT to answer, that's a problem. And maybe it takes us going there and physically showing up. I'm a big believer in the squeaky wheel getting the grease. And I think as we move forward, we need active leadership who's willing to go to Trenton, say what we need here, make them identify that Toms River is vital, we are important, we are the county seat of Ocean County. We are located on the Toms River, one of the greatest navigable rivers in the world. And I think we need to keep that in mind, that we shouldn't just say Trenton does what Trenton does and Toms River has to deal with it. We can work with Trenton and make sure that our squeaky wheel is getting greased.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, quickly.
When I was on the council the first year, Mayor Paul Brush was a Democrat. He was our mayor. We had Governor McGreevey, a Democrat, in the chair in Trenton. Paul Brush took the council to Trenton. We met with DOT. We explained the problems we're having on Route 9. The overdevelopment was causing congestion. And I will tell you, this is a quote from a staffer. He told me we get more votes paving a mile of road in North Jersey than we do doing anything in Ocean County. And he said, he told me point blank, Route 9 will never be widened. That was his quote. I would suggest to you there is an opportunity for rail service. There's an active rail line that goes to the base through Lakehurst. That used to be a commercial, not only commercial, but you had passenger rail service on there. It's my understanding that Conrail still owns the sidings. I think you could put a siding on that, and you could possibly do, residential, or you could do commuter traffic on that from, say, 7 in the morning till 10. It connects up with Red Bank. The rail line ends in Red Bank. It goes through Lakewood, through the Lakewood-Jackson border, through Farmingdale, and into Red Bank. You could have siding where you could have one train coming off while one's going north, and then from 10 to say 2 or 3 in the afternoon, you could have the commercial service for the base, which is about the only thing that they use it for. And then in the evening, again, you could have a passenger service on that, and that you could have a short stop at 571 where there's a Jackson. Toms River border, there's open field. You could have a kind of what they call a kiss and go station where you could drop people off and pick them up. But we're never going to get a mom line down here, and that's our best bet. So I would hope that somebody would give some thought to renovating that as a passenger and commercial line. And I would suggest that as one of the ways to take care of that. 55% of our people commute outside the county for work. We need transportation infrastructure. And I don't care whether there's a Democrat or Republican, Trenton is reluctant to move on Route 9 and do anything. They put it off, they put it off. Think about the only dualized roads that we have in our county. They run from the Garden State Parkway to the beach, 37, 72, 70 from Brick to Point Pleasant area. Once you go west of the Parkway, we're all on 2-lane highways. Our major north-south artery, state highway, between Toms River and Lakewood, 2 of the biggest towns in New Jersey, is still a 1-lane highway.
Okay. From Laura Toombs, how can you help stabilize or reduce our taxes on the other side of the bridge? We seem to be overtaxed and forgotten. Mr. Petro.
Thank you so much. I'm assuming this is coming from the other side of the bridge, meaning our barrier islands. We had the opportunity last weekend to speak to the Ortley Beach Voters and Taxpayers Association, which was a lively discussion. I think that obviously Ortley Beach, Chadwick, Normandy, these beaches, we need to remember that they are part of Toms River. I think some Toms River residents forget that they are a part of us and we are a part of them. I grew up going to the beach at Ortley, and I think it's important to keep in mind that they often receive less of the services that they pay for. While we look at their property values, and frankly they've gone up and down since Sandy, we need to keep in mind that they are a vibrant part of our town, and frankly they have received less of the services based upon where they are and what is needed. I think we need to first of all make sure that the mayor and the council are present in Ortley Beach and the other beach communities to make sure that we're hearing what they have to say, we're giving them what they're looking for, within reason, of course. And any type of complaint, of course, should be responded to, and make sure that Ortley Beach and the other beach communities feel a part of us.
Well, I've been on the council. Ortley Beach has a meeting once a month. And Maria Maruca, who's the Ward 1 representative, and I'm an at-large councilman, we have been meeting with them. They're a vocal community. We have tried the best we can to meet their needs. We had a kayak ramp put in. We've also had discussions with them on how many racks they want. At first they wanted 2 racks. They sold out. We're going to put a 3rd one in. As far as the beachfront area, we put $600,000 in Moby mats to go over the dunes safely into the beachfront. They requested benches. We're going to put benches next year on the top of the dune so that people can walk up there who don't want to go swimming but just want to look at the ocean. We've also rebuilt the boardwalk over there. Every road in Ortley Beach has been repaved. In a town, you have to rack and stack your priorities. Our capital committees review the capital budget. Every year it's between $10 and $12 million in capital expenses. We have a fixed expense of $4 million for road repaving. If you've driven around this town, we've got an active road repaving project, which before I became in office we never had. Roads were in bad shape. There are roads being repaired in each section of town. And if you look, just last Tuesday, we had a presentation on our capital program. Bob Chankalian, our township engineer, highlighted the different spots. And if you looked at the map, every location, every section of Toms River had some active project going on. Ortley has needs for, I used to kid Maria, I said, I'm in Ward 3, I'm still waiting for my first bulkhead. And she goes, Mo, you don't have any water. But we do bulkheading projects every year. We've done road elevation projects on the barrier island because there was flooding. Washington Avenue was raised. Sixth Terrace is going to be increased and raised to reduce flooding. So we are addressing their problems. Unfortunately, taxes are based on the valuation of your property. It depends on where you live. And a lot of times, if you have a large house, you're going to pay a little bit more in taxes than somebody that has a smaller piece of property.
If I could just respond to that as far as the stabilization, I think was the question with regard to taxes.
Yeah.
It's not that Ortley
Quickly.
Beach is concerned about whether they have kayaks or not. Frankly, it comes down to making sure that any evaluations we have of values of properties are proper. And if they're not proper, we need to make it a very easy process for a homeowner, especially on the barrier island, to make those appeals and get the right result.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Karen Wall with the Toms River Patch. This is the Toms River Mayoral Debate with Maurice Mo Hill and Jonathan Petro. And we're going back to starting with one of your Facebook questions. From Devin Mazza. What plan do you have for vacant businesses that litter our town? We have 2 large food towns that have been vacant for years, assorted storefronts that have no tenants. What will you do to make sure that we have an attractive business, that we are attractive here for businesses in Toms River, so we're not left behind in terms of a growing economy? And we'll start with Mr. Petro on this one.
Thank you, Karen, and I really appreciate the question. I had the privilege of serving as the Greater Toms River Chamber of Commerce chairman for the past 2 years. And one of the things we need to look at as far as bringing in new businesses to Toms River is we need to make sure that those new businesses, especially small businesses, have the ability to open without a lot of red tape, going through town hall, getting the proper permits. And I'm a big believer in borrowing ideas from other towns that seem to work. So I would look at a program like Mayor Ducey introduced in Brick, which allows for certain storefronts, if they've been empty for a certain amount of time, to make an application through town hall to get permits at zero cost. When you're starting a new business, and I happen to have friends who have small businesses, it's important to know that those first few months are critical. Most small businesses open and close within the first few months. I think we've seen that throughout this town. It frustrates me as I drive around, especially Fisher Boulevard, Route 37, Hooper Avenue, and even Route 9, that there are these open businesses that are vacant and have been vacant for years. There are businesses that have been vacant since I was a child. That should not be happening. Frankly, I believe that I should be able to walk the town, see an open space, and say to the landlord, hey, I'm Jonathan Petro, I'm your mayor. What can we do to help you? What are you looking for? What are you looking to fill in? And then we should be able to broker an agreement between both the landlord and the potential tenant to make sure that these new businesses are coming in. This is not something that, I have to say, if we wait for people to come to Toms River, it's not going to happen. We have to go out, go forth into the world and bring businesses back in and explain to them that it's not an issue of just demographics. I think a lot of people say that, well, the demographics in Toms River are not suitable for this type of business. That's why Trader Joe's goes to Bricktown. That's not sufficient for me. I need to get out into the world and explain to people why Toms River is different. We are diverse. We have a great group of citizens who want these new businesses and will support them. We have to make sure that we're getting out there and bringing those businesses in.
Okay. Mr. Howe.
Thank you. The first year I was on the council, I wrote to Wegmans, Trader Joe's, and Whole Foods because we had the Dover Shopping Center, which was wide open with exits north and south with no toll. I got a very nice letter back from Wegmans, Trader Joe's, and Whole Foods saying we didn't meet the demographic. Again, the demographic, I told them even though we had 90,000, we had 90,000 at that time in Lakewood and 92,000 in Toms River, 80,000 in Brick, it wasn't enough to swing them. They have a demographic that they look for. The reason Brick wound up with Trader Joe's is if you draw the demographic around there, you take in Brielle, you take in Bay Head, you take in Maniloking. Toms River, when you draw the demographic, it's not that type of a robust community that you're getting with a high-end salary. I do agree that I think what we need to do to stimulate business is possibly looking for tax incentives for places that have been open for a while. Maybe we can extend a tax break to a new business to encourage that. I also think that we need to take the opportunities where we have some redevelopment opportunities. Downtown is a perfect area. When I was growing up in the 60s, downtown Toms River was a vibrant town. Charney's was where you went for your stationery. The community movie theaters where you went for the movies. There were restaurants downtown. As the malls came into being, the downtowns dried up. Now we're seeing the malls suffering with the internet businesses and people moving back to the downtown area because they want to be near a transportation hub. The only one we have is the bus terminal. We passed a redevelopment program in Toms River. The council, it was 7-0. It was a bipartisan effort. We've went out for RFPs. We are the redeveloping agent, which means we control what goes on down there. We've had one proposal from a Capadaglia group. It was 2 apartment complexes, one on Iron Street, one down across from the post office. The total was around 500. Whether that's the right number or not, we don't know. We're going to vet that with the public. I also see a mixed use going downtown in other areas. We've had talks with the post office of moving out to a redevelopment area we have on Hooper and Caudina because it's more centrally located in the town for their business. Right now, they're almost in South Toms River. That opens up about 3 acres down there, which could be townhouses and condominiums and a mix of retail. But we need people living downtown to generate that type of business. Right now, Jonathan's right, a lot of times the businesses will open and close. I was at an opening for a falafel downtown. It was open for about 2 months. They feed off of the schools when they're in session, but when they're not in session in the summer, a lot of those businesses wind up closing. So we need a downtown presence, which means you need people living down there 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Karen, if I could just respond to one thing that was said. Mr. Hill mentioned that 15 years ago when he first came on council, he contacted Wegmans and he went out for these other high-end shopping centers. And unfortunately, that was 15 years ago. We are in a totally different world these days. In Toms River, just because we've done something once 15 years ago doesn't mean it won't work today. I think we need to look at options and make sure that we're doing what other towns are doing to bring in that business.
All right, let's talk a little bit about downtown. This is a question from Noah, a student at Toms River South. Mr. Hill asked, what will the limit on building heights and/or the number of apartments downtown be?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the plan right now, the one developer who returned the RFP, Captain Ugly Group, it's a 6-story apartment complex, 4 floors of apartments with 2 parking decks underneath. There's no 10-story high-rise building. They're going to be kept at a 4 to 5 story complex with parking underneath. Now with these complexes, they're actually increasing the amount of parking downtown. That's always been a problem. So we made the first step. The Business Improvement District downtown and the Chamber of Commerce have for years asked the council to spend money downtown. We buy acreage all around town. They said, spend some money downtown. We brought the red carpet in, tore it down. I never realized how close the Toms River was until that building was down. Right now it's a temporary parking lot, but in the grand scheme of things, I could see where there might be a restaurant in that area and where there could be a pedestrian bridge perhaps going over 166 to join it to Huddy Park. This same developer who has expressed an interest in these apartments has also put a bid in on the boathouse, the gray buildings across from Water Street. They've been damaged since Sandy. Again, the proposal for there might be another restaurant with a deck above that for weddings and whatnot. And I think that's exciting. We could put a little more parking on our Huddy parking lot. We could elevate that to another 2 levels, join that with a sky bridge over to the municipal lot, and that way you could walk through town and not have to worry about crossing these dangerous roads. In addition, our fire departments have expressed a desire to merge their 2 companies. They're looking at Highland Parkway. There's a bank out there in the corner that's been vacant for years. They would like to use that as their combined headquarters. That would open those 2 sites for development. I could see that firehouse on Robbins being a brew pub and a restaurant up above it. So there's a lot of opportunity. I'm excited about what's happening down Toms River. It's not going to be overdeveloped. It's going to be developed right. And as I said, the council has the redevelopment authority. If the residents don't like it and we don't like it, it goes back to the drawing board.
Okay. Mr. Petro?
I want to be very clear on this because there's been some discussion about what my position was with regards to downtown redevelopment. Our team fully believes in responsible, reasonable, and beautiful redevelopment of our downtown area. The tearing down of the Red Roof Inn was the first step, and we all agree that that was something that should have happened. Frankly, it's something that should have happened a decade ago. I came home after law school, and the red roof was an issue back then. That was 15 years ago. The police were already there all the time 15 years ago. Finally, it got done. It took some time, and I commend the work of people who made sure that we could finally buy it and tear it down. There's a question as to this plan in downtown Toms River, and I want to be very clear about that. I believe that we do need more residents downtown. I do believe we need maybe new businesses coming in downtown that may need different buildings. It is this plan that concerns me. The plan concerns me for a few reasons, and first of all, the fact that only one organization or business responded to the RFP concerns me as well. I believe in competition. I believe in looking at a few different options when we're looking at one builder to do a project. Beyond that, the Boatworks building has been an issue ever since Sandy and probably even before Sandy. That building has been vacant since 2012, and finally now the council is going to act on it. What has been going on with that building for the past 7 years? These are concerns I have. The fact that downtown only has one place for me to go after work to grab a pizza and a beer on a Friday night, it's not appropriate for a downtown, especially for the county seat, Toms River, where I grew up. We used to go to the Java Joint when I was in high school and enjoy those times. But frankly, downtown has been an issue for a long, long time, and I'm glad to see finally that things are maybe happening down there. But I do have some concerns about these plans just showing up now. And I think it's not too late, but we're getting close to the point where downtown's going to have a hard time rejuvenating because it's had such a long time to have nothing new down there.
Well, I'd have to give my opponent one Pinocchio here. His literature came out and said he was against 10-story buildings when he was at the meeting with the BID and the Chamber of Commerce on September 4th, where there was no 10-story building proposed, yet he put it in his literature. So again, he's not being factual with everything. And I think that you need a downtown presence. And I think, we went out with a proposal. There were 4 packets picked up. 3 of the people told us, quite frankly, they wouldn't come south of Bricktown. That was the answer we got. They wouldn't do anything in Southern Ocean County. This Kapodagi group put in a package. They have done Boundbrook, Linden, Hackensack. Hackensack is a county seat just like Toms River. The problem they had is that, again, just like Toms River, at 4:30, everybody was exiting Hackensack. They've built 2 complexes there. The apartments are small. 1 bedroom is about 700 square feet. 2 bedrooms is about 1,000. They're nice apartments, high end. The demographic that they have attracted when they're near a transportation center, such as our bus terminal, is they're finding young millennials, 30 to 35, married and single, and empty nesters. And what they want is they don't want to come home and cook in a 700 square foot apartment. They want to go out to dinner. So their buildings will each come with a restaurant and a coffee bar in them. Plus, I think it'll stimulate growth downtown. If we can get these walkovers over 166, and we have the boathouse developed into a restaurant and a center where you can have a reception center on the side, I think it's a home run. And I think we're going to see more development. I will tell you that with the Legion Apartments, which are 55 apartments, almost fully rented now, that Capone's restaurant has seen an uptick in their business because there are people living down there that go there to eat. So you need people to generate the flow for these businesses to be successful. As I say, we have the final say on it. If the public comes out and doesn't like it, we go back to the drawing board.
Okay. I feel I need to respond to the single Pinocchio comment. First of all, we've never said that this particular plan allowed for 10-story buildings. However, I will say that the master plan for Toms River does allow for 10-story buildings downtown. My opponent has denied that that is a possibility. In fact, on page LU 36 of the master plan, it states that up to 10% of buildings in downtown Toms River could be 8 to 10 stories. Let's not forget that that is the master plan that was put into effect in 2017 and exists. And I encourage everybody to read it because it is the master plan that exists today that we are operating under that does allow for 10-story buildings in downtown Toms River.
But there is no proposal for 10-story buildings.
Okay.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
All right.
Just because it's in the master plan doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Okay. All right. Real quick, I want 30 seconds from each of you on how you would convince Trenton to refund the schools properly. I'll start with Mr. Petro.
Thank you. The first step, of course, is to get Trenton to release their secret formula that they've put together with regards to school funding, which has caused a loss of funding for Toms River. I think we need to have that disclosed Frankly, they say it's proprietary. And the last time I checked, Trenton works for us. We are the taxpayers. If it's proprietary to the taxpayers. We're the ones who paid to have that plan and that formula put together. It's got to be disclosed. I'm a family law attorney. I know how the child support guidelines work. You enter in different variables and it shoots out a number at the end. It's very clear and very simple to follow. It's not rocket science. We need Trenton to disclose that formula, and then we need to lobby to make sure that Toms River is getting its fair share. This should have been happening for years. We can't now blame this one time that they've set up this formula that definitely, we all agree, has hurt our Toms River schools. So it's an issue of full disclosure from Trenton and holding them accountable, and then working with them to change the formula.
I actually agree with my opponent on this one. Toms River has filed suit along with 7 other communities to have this formula, secret formula, released. They say it's proprietary. I agree with Jonathan that it's a state plan. We're the taxpayers. We should be privy to that so that we know how to plan our budgets. It's ridiculous for a school or municipality to not know from one year to the other what their funding is going to be for both the schools and the municipal government. I can tell you when I first took over on the council, we had $12 million in municipal aid. We were cut to $8 million. We've never gotten any more, but we haven't been reduced any less. Now, our budgeting starts with $8 million in municipal aid. The same thing should be happening to the school system so that they know year to year what their baseline is going to be. I've said a number of times that districts like Camden and Trenton, which are inner city districts, I understand fully, but they're funded at a rate that exceeds the entire budget for Toms River Regional Schools when they have 4,000 and 5,000 less students. And it just doesn't make sense. Okay. Toms River is very efficient in the way they educate their children. It's $17,400 per student for 15,500 students, and they graduate 92%. So you need to have a return on investment. We need to have full funding at Toms River. Okay.
All right. We're down to closing statements. We're running short on time here. So, Mr. Petro, 2 minutes?
Take one more.
Take one more? Okay. All right. Last quick question from Facebook, from Drew Chabot. How about the Barrier Island pays 26% of Toms River taxes? My parents pay over $9,000 in taxes on a 60 by 100 lot on the island. It's insane. We talked about this a little bit, but give me 20 seconds, Mr. Petro.
Thank you. And again, my answer comes back down to making sure that when we evaluate and value these properties, that they're properly valued from the start. That comes down to picking the right person to make the appraisals, and also providing for, if an appraisal comes back and it's not fair, an easy appeal process.
Okay.
We are under a state mandate to have a reappraisal, a reevaluation. I believe it's 2021 when we're going to be doing that reevaluation again. We'll be hiring a company to do that. They will come in, do the assessments. You have an appeal process after the assessment's done. You'll come before the tax board and you can appeal your case. Again, everything's going to be looked at clean slate in 2021. Everybody's going to be reevaluated, not just the Barrier Island.
Okay. All right. Mr. Petro, closing statement.
Thank you, Karen, and again, thank you.
And I'm going to have to cut you a little bit short, so.
That's no problem. First of all, again, thank you for hosting us today, and thank you to everybody in the world for giving their questions, and also for tuning in, especially the townspeople and taxpayers of Toms River. November 5th is going to be a day where Toms River makes a decision, okay? Not just as to who is going to run this town as far as who's going to become the mayor, but also who's going to be on council, who's going to be in our other elected offices. We need to ask ourselves, are we better off today than we were 15 years ago? 15 years ago, my opponent had his first time on our council. 15 years ago, I was just starting my law practice here in Toms River. I've dedicated my life to service, and I think it's something that we both agree is necessary as we move forward both in 2019 and for the next 40 years. Somebody said to me that, a great quote, you've been assigned to this mountain to show others it can be moved. I believe that our team has been assigned to this mountain, and we need to show others that it can be moved. The issues facing Toms River right now are very serious and very important. And if we don't do something now, unfortunately, we will continue down a path that will drive us away from the town I knew as a child.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you. I led a life committed to service. I served my country for 35 years in the Navy. When I retired in 2005, we had a change of government. I saw the ward system in Newark, which was non-functional, and in Jersey City. And I made a commitment to get involved in this town to make sure that that never happened in Toms River. We have 3 high schools. The beauty of this town is if Toms River North is going for the state championship, the entire town's behind them. They battle, but they join together. The unity in this town and the diversity is fantastic. I love this town. I moved here. I didn't grow up here, but I chose to raise my family here and my grandchildren here. I think it's critical. This is a critical election. It's going to determine who's going to be the mayor and the council. I think you have to look to somebody with experience. This is not a job that you can just jump into. I've been a ward councilman. I've learned that section of town. I've been an at-large councilman with the entire town. I think I have the knowledge, the experience, and the leadership skills to bring this town forward in a positive direction with our redevelopment areas. We have a plan. We have put forth a positive vision for Toms River. My opponent has not. His entire campaign has been a personal attack on me, which has been difficult for my family, but that's the way politics is. I will tell you that you need a steady hand on the tiller coming into this election. We don't need to have people at the tiller that are not experienced and learning on the job. This is a job you have to jump in, ready to run. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight. And if you were not able to watch this debate from the start, there'll be a replay on Facebook. There'll be replays on YouTube. And we thank you for tuning in tonight.
Well, OBVTA those are tough people.